The Great Sphinx of Giza has stood for millennia, watching silently over the shifting sands of Egypt. Its colossal body stretches across the plateau, carved from limestone with a precision that still challenges modern understanding. For centuries, archaeologists and historians have debated its origins, linking it to Pharaoh Khafre and the 4th dynasty of Egypt, around 2500 BCE. But what if that timeline is wrong? What if the Sphinx is far older than we have been taught? What if its secrets point to a civilization lost in the mists of prehistory, one that existed thousands of years before the rise of the pyramids? The very surface of the Sphinx holds a story that has been largely ignored or dismissed, a tale etched not in inscriptions, but in stone itself. The limestone body of the Sphinx is riddled with erosion patterns, grooves and channels that run vertically along its flanks, etched deeply into the rock over countless years. For decades, mainstream archaeology explained these patterns as the result of wind and sand abrasion, slowly wearing away the monument in the harsh desert environment. But in the 1990s, a geologist named Robert Schoch examined these erosion patterns and noticed something extraordinary. The marks were not caused by wind and sand, which produce horizontal or diagonal erosion over time. These grooves were vertical, deep, and uniform, consistent with prolonged exposure to flowing water. And not just a little water. These patterns suggested intense and sustained rainfall, far more than Egypt has seen in the last several thousand years. The Sahara, as it exists today, is one of the driest regions on Earth, almost entirely arid for at least the last 5 millennia. But geological evidence points to a radically different past. Tens of thousands of years ago, during the African humid period, the Sahara was a lush landscape, dotted with rivers, lakes, and vegetation. Rainfall was heavy, persistent, and widespread, sufficient to carve deep erosion channels into solid limestone. When Schoch analyzed the Sphinx, he proposed a radical idea. The erosion patterns were not the result of centuries of desert sand, but of thousands of years of rainfall. And if this was true, the Sphinx could not have been carved just 4,500 years ago during the reign of Khafre. It must predate that by at least 7,000 to 10,000 years, placing its origin somewhere around 7,000 to 5,000 BCE, in an era often referred to as the end of the last ice age. Imagine that, a civilization capable of carving a structure so enormous, so precise, existing while the deserts were green, while the Nile flowed differently, while humans lived without the written history we recognize. The implications are staggering. The erosion patterns are not minor scratches. They are deep vertical furrows carved by water over centuries, perhaps millennia. They cover the flanks of the Sphinx from the base to the shoulders, intersecting even with cracks and fissures caused by seismic activity, indicating that this is a process older than most of the structures around it. When you study the plateau around the Sphinx, the surrounding quarry walls, and the remnants of the temples and causeways, the evidence multiplies. There are marks and depressions consistent with long-term water runoff. Limestone blocks that have worn unevenly, some much older than the pyramid complexes nearby. Even the very position of the Sphinx, facing east toward the rising sun, suggests astronomical alignment knowledge that could only have been developed by a sophisticated culture, one aware of celestial cycles and the passage of time, long before Egypt's recorded dynasties. Mainstream Egyptology resists this interpretation. Many scholars argue that rainfall erosion could not account for the patterns, that weathering over thousands of years in a desert could produce similar effects. But the geology speaks a different language. The vertical channels are unmistakably carved by water flowing down over centuries. This type of erosion is consistent with heavy rainfall, not sandstorms or occasional floods. The surrounding rock layers, dating from the Eocene, are softer in some areas and harder in others. Yet, the erosion persists where it should not, a testament to forces far older and more intense than anything Egypt has seen in the historical period. Think about the implications for a moment. If the Sphinx is 10,000 years old, who built it? What civilization possessed the technical skill to quarry, shape, and sculpt such a massive figure in solid limestone? How did they organize labor, resources, and tools without leaving behind written records? Perhaps they used a form of knowledge lost to time, one we can only glimpse in the echoes of stone and water patterns. Some have speculated that this points to a global memory, a shared pool of human knowledge that predates recorded history, Maybe there were advanced cultures flourishing during the last ice age, civilizations whose traces have been swallowed by rising seas, desertification, and millennia of geological activity. The Sphinx may be the lone survivor, a sentinel guarding secrets we have only begun to comprehend. The more we analyze the erosion, the harder it becomes to deny that this monument is older than the pyramids. The limestone body shows differential weathering, where some sections are deeply grooved and others remain relatively intact, indicating long periods of exposure to water, interrupted by geological stability. Rainfall of sufficient intensity to carve limestone requires not just occasional storms, but a fundamentally different climate, one with sustained monsoon-like conditions or a completely different hydrological system in place. Some researchers have even compared the erosion patterns to those found in tropical climates, where seasonal rains carve deep channels into sedimentary rock. Could it be that the Sahara, once verdant and alive, supported a civilization that revered the Sphinx as a deity or a marker of astronomical knowledge? Consider the Sphinx's face. The proportions, the symmetry, the subtle expression. These are not random. They are deliberate, artistic, and mathematical. Whoever carved it had not only the tools but the vision to imagine a figure that would endure for thousands of years through climate change, human history, and geological upheaval. And yet, for all this time, the monument was slowly eroded by forces we are only now beginning to understand. Water, wind, and time have reshaped the limestone, but the Sphinx remains, its gaze fixed, perhaps intentionally, toward an era that preceded Egyptian civilization itself. What does this mean for our understanding of human history? If the Sphinx predates Egypt by 10,000 years, then we must reconsider the origins of human civilization. History as we know it, the linear timeline of hunter-gatherers, the advent of agriculture, the rise of dynasties, may need to be rewritten. Could there have been a global civilization during the Holocene, wiped away by climate shifts or cataclysmic events, leaving only fragments like the Sphinx to testify to their existence? The erosion patterns, in that sense, are more than just geological anomalies. They are silent witnesses, carved in stone, whispering of a past far deeper and stranger than our textbooks admit. Some scholars have taken this even further, connecting the Sphinx to astronomical alignments. If it is indeed that ancient, then the constellation Leo, which the Sphinx faces, would have been in a different position due to axial precession. This would imply that the Sphinx was built to mark the rising of Leo, a celestial event tens of thousands of years ago. Suddenly, the erosion patterns are not merely a question of water. They become part of a cosmic puzzle, linking climate, geology, and astronomy into a narrative that defies conventional chronology. Every groove, every channel, every vertical furrow etched into the Sphinx tells a story of rainfall long vanished, of a climate radically different from the desert we see today, of a civilization perhaps lost forever. And as you consider this, it is impossible not to wonder what other secrets lie hidden beneath the sands. What if the Sphinx is only the visible tip of a vast network of monuments, quarries, and structures predating known history? What if beneath the Giza Plateau lie remnants of temples, libraries, or entire cities waiting to be rediscovered? The implications ripple outward. Our understanding of human achievement, technological ability, and societal organization may be incomplete, built on the fragile assumption that written history is the only measure of civilization. The Sphinx challenges that assumption. Its erosion patterns demand that we look further back, beyond the pyramids, beyond dynasties, into a forgotten age when humanity may have walked the earth with knowledge and skill that rivaled, or even surpassed, what we inherited millennia later. And perhaps the most chilling thought is this. The Sphinx has survived tens of thousands of years of erosion, climate change, and human activity. Yet, we still debate its age, still question its origins, still cling to timelines that may be convenient but incomplete. The stone speaks, but we struggle to listen. Each channel carved by ancient rainfall is a word, a sentence, a story of a world we may never fully know, a civilization erased but not entirely lost. And as the sun rises over the plateau, casting long shadows across its massive body, you cannot help but feel that the Sphinx is not merely a relic of Egypt. It is a sentinel of memory, a guardian of a lost epic, a reminder that history is far stranger, deeper, and more mysterious than we have ever imagined. The Sphinx has seen civilizations rise and fall, deserts bloom and dry, and still it endures. And perhaps, just perhaps, its silent gaze is not toward the past we know, but toward the past we have yet to discover. The grooves, the furrows, the erosion. They are not mere marks on stone. They are whispers of a time when rainfall shaped the land, when humans walked in a world we can scarcely imagine, and when the Sphinx first opened its eyes to a history far older than Egypt itself. What secrets remain buried beneath those sands, hidden from view, waiting for the curious to unravel them? How many more clues lie in wait, disguised as geological anomalies, for those willing to see what others refuse to acknowledge? The Sphinx endures, an eternal question etched in limestone, its weathered body a testament to an age long forgotten, a civilization lost, and a history far deeper than we have dared to imagine. The sands of Giza hide secrets far older than history dares to acknowledge. Beneath the familiar image of the pyramids and the Sphinx lies a geological record that challenges everything we think we know about the timeline of human civilization. When we examine the plateau not just as an archaeological site, but as a geological landscape, the anomalies begin to pile up, pointing to epochs long before the rise of Egypt's dynasties. The limestone that forms the Sphinx, quarried locally, is itself ancient, formed millions of years ago. Yet, within this limestone, we find evidence that cannot be reconciled with conventional Egyptology. Fractures, weathering patterns, sediment layers, all suggest a history of exposure and environmental conditions that predate the accepted timeline by thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. Robert Schoch, the geologist who first drew attention to the water erosion on the Sphinx, did not stop there. He examined the surrounding bedrock, the quarry walls, and the plateau itself, noting that the differential weathering, where some layers are deeply eroded while adjacent layers remain relatively intact, indicates sequences of geological events that occurred far earlier than the Fourth Dynasty. These are not minor inconsistencies. The erosion is uneven, sculpted by forces that acted over extended periods, including chemical weathering from rainwater percolating through the limestone, seismic activity fracturing the bedrock, and periods of stability allowing the rock to harden and resist further erosion. When comparing these patterns to other geological sites with known ages, Schoch concluded that the Sphinx must be significantly older, potentially dating back to the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 BCE. Geological formations rarely lie. Rocks do not forge narratives to suit human convenience. They retain the memory of water, wind, and tectonic shifts, holding a record of time far beyond written history. In the case of Giza, the erosion patterns, fault lines, and sediment deposits tell a story of a landscape subjected to long-term rainfall, humidity, and climatic changes that occurred thousands of years before Egyptian dynasties emerged. Beyond the Sphinx, the plateau itself contains anomalies. Quarry pits that supplied limestone for construction exhibited wear and marks inconsistent with the tools known to exist 4,500 years ago. The edges are rounded in ways consistent with prolonged water erosion, and some blocks are cracked and split along lines that align with tectonic stress, indicating earthquakes that predate recorded history. Even the pyramids themselves, while younger than the Sphinx, rest upon bedrock that has experienced millennia of chemical and physical weathering, meaning the very foundation of the plateau carries a record older than the monuments above. Further evidence emerges when we look at the orientation and alignment of the Sphinx and surrounding structures. Geological surveys reveal that the plateau's underlying strata shift in ways that reflect an ancient water table, long dried, with sediment deposits that would only form under conditions radically different from the present desert. These deposits indicate lakes, rivers, or at least prolonged rain events during a period when humans may have been forming settlements. But conventional history insists that complex civilizations were nowhere near this stage. It is as if the rocks themselves are whispering that humanity, or at least human-like activity, was present far earlier than the textbooks admit. Skeptics often argue that differential erosion and sediment deposition can be explained through localized flooding or modern climate changes, but these claims collapse under scrutiny. The scale, depth, and uniformity of the erosion patterns are inconsistent with occasional floods. They are cumulative, chronic, and systematic, pointing to centuries or millennia of persistent forces. Even seismic evidence, often overlooked, plays a role. Fracture lines in the limestone suggest tectonic activity that coincides with periods of water-induced weathering. This combination of rainfall erosion and seismic fracturing creates a geological signature virtually impossible to reconcile with a 400–500-year timeline. Moreover, microfossils embedded in the limestone provide further clues. Certain algae and microorganisms, sensitive to climate and water levels, indicate that the rock was exposed to conditions entirely different from the arid desert. Radiocarbon dating and other isotopic methods, applied to surrounding organic sediments, place these conditions at least 7,000 to 10,000 years before Khafre's reign. Some skeptics dismiss these findings as anomalies, arguing for natural variations in erosion rates or isolated chemical effects. Yet, when the data is collated, the vertical channels on the Sphinx, the rounded quarry edges, the differential weathering, the ancient water tables, the microfossil records, a coherent picture emerges. The plateau is far older, and human activity in this area may have been possible in climates that no longer exist. The geological evidence raises profound questions. If the Sphinx and its surrounding structures predate known Egyptian civilization, what does this imply about the continuity of knowledge? Could there have been advanced cultures during the late Pleistocene capable of monumental architecture, lost to rising seas, shifting deserts, and catastrophic climate changes? And if so, why is there no record, no inscriptions, no direct evidence? Perhaps the answer lies in the fragility of early civilizations, easily erased by environmental upheavals. Consider the Sahara itself. Geological surveys showed that around 10,000 years ago, this region was not desert, but a mosaic of savanna, lakes, and rivers. The hydrology would have been sufficient to support settlements, agriculture, and monumental construction. Rising deserts, desertification, and the retreat of rainfall patterns could have obliterated surface evidence, leaving only the most durable constructions, like the Sphinx, as testament. Even chemical weathering supports this. The limestone's composition reflects exposure to water rich in carbonic acid, slowly dissolving calcium carbonate and creating the vertical channels observed today. This process takes millennia, reinforcing the argument that the Sphinx is not merely 4,500 years old, but far older. Geologists have also noted that certain stratigraphic layers around the Sphinx show signs of fossilized soil horizons, paleosols that formed under stable wet conditions. These soils could not have existed in the desert environment of classical Egypt. They suggest that the Sphinx sat atop a landscape conducive to settlement during a time that predates recorded history. Every element, the limestone, the microfossils, the erosion patterns, the sediment layers, points to the same unsettling conclusion. The accepted timelines of history are incomplete. Geological evidence refuses to conform to conventional narratives. It suggests a deep past, a time when rainfall sculpted the landscape, when the Sahara was green, and when humans may have walked among monuments that survive to this day as silent witnesses. These findings, if accepted, rewrite the narrative of human history. They imply that civilizations capable of monumental architecture existed not just in the fertile Nile Valley of 2500 BCE, but in a world far older, shaped by climates we can scarcely imagine. They hint at knowledge lost to time, technologies forgotten, and histories erased by the relentless forces of nature. And as the sun beats down on the Giza Plateau, the wind scours the rocks, and the sands shift. The geological record endures, patiently waiting for those willing to read it. The fractures, the erosion, the ancient sediments, they are more than inert rock. They are pages of a story we have barely begun to comprehend. A narrative of human ambition, endurance, and ingenuity that may stretch back tens of thousands of years. Each groove etched by ancient waters, each crack formed by seismic forces, each fossil embedded in limestone is a testament to a reality far more complex than the linear histories we accept. If we dare to listen to the geological evidence, we must confront the possibility that humanity's story is older, stranger, and more enigmatic than we have been taught. The plateau is not merely a foundation for monuments, it is a palimpsest, layered with the memory of climates, tectonic shifts, and human endeavor long lost to the sands. To ignore this evidence is to deny the Earth its own memory. To embrace it is to open the door to a past that may forever change how we perceive civilization, technology, and the continuity of knowledge. Geological evidence beyond accepted timelines does not merely challenge chronology, it challenges our understanding of human potential, of lost wisdom, and of the profound mysteries etched into the very stones of our world. And if the Sphinx is any indication, it is a sentinel guarding secrets that predate the pyramids, secrets written not in ink or hieroglyphs, but in the bedrock of the earth itself. Every fracture, every erosion mark, every sediment layer is a whisper from a time when humanity's story was just beginning, and the world was vastly different from what we imagine. What civilizations existed before history began? What knowledge did they possess? And what happened to erase them from our collective memory, leaving only the geological record and monuments like the Sphinx to remind us of their existence? The answers may be buried, waiting beneath layers of stone and sand, decipherable only to those who dare to see beyond accepted timelines. And perhaps, in the grooves and fractures of the plateau, in the weathered limestone of the Sphinx, lies the key to understanding a human story far older and far stranger than we have ever imagined. It is a story written in stone, enduring, patient, and profound. A story that demands we reconsider everything we think we know about the dawn of civilization. Long before the rise of the pharaohs, long before the construction of the first pyramids, whispers of an ancient civilization echo through myths and fragments of oral traditions. Scholars often dismiss these as mere legends, fanciful tales passed down from later cultures. Yet, when we examine them alongside geological and architectural evidence, a startling picture emerges. A civilization that may have existed in the shadows of prehistory, building monuments that would outlast millennia. These myths are scattered across time and geography, found not only in Egypt but in distant corners of the world. The Sumerians spoke of antediluvian kings who ruled before the Great Flood. The Egyptians themselves told stories of gods and demigods walking the earth, leaving behind temples, knowledge, and artifacts in a world untouched by recorded history. Could these tales reflect a real memory of an advanced society, one capable of constructing colossal structures, mastering engineering, and harnessing knowledge lost to us? Consider the Sphinx. Its scale, precision, and enduring presence hint at planning, surveying, and construction techniques beyond what would be expected in a nascent dynastic Egypt. When we align the myths of pre-dynastic builders with the geological evidence, the pieces of a shadowed past begin to coalesce. Legends speak of a world in which knowledge of the stars, geometry, and monumental construction existed long before we thought possible. Plato, in his dialogues, recounts the tale of Atlantis, an island civilization so advanced it rivaled the gods, which vanished beneath the waves. Many dismiss this as allegory, yet what if Plato's story is a distorted echo of real events, a memory passed down across generations, a record of a lost pre-dynastic civilization that once thrived along fertile lands now buried under desert sands or submerged beneath the Mediterranean? Oral traditions in Africa and the Middle East recount beings of extraordinary knowledge guiding humanity, teaching agriculture, astronomy, mathematics, and architecture. Could these figures represent real members of a civilization that predates the pharaohs, one whose contributions were incorporated into later Egyptian culture without acknowledgement? The myths are strikingly specific. They describe massive stone structures, precise alignments with celestial bodies, and tools and techniques that seem impossibly sophisticated for early human societies. Some tales speak of vast repositories of knowledge, encoded in symbols and carvings, which were later adopted by emerging civilizations. If these accounts hold even a kernel of truth, then the origins of the Sphinx, the pyramids, and perhaps other ancient monuments may be far older than the timelines accepted today. Archaeologists have long focused on material evidence, tools, pottery, inscriptions, but what of knowledge itself? Myths preserve memory in ways that artifacts cannot. They encode dates, alignments, and technical descriptions in allegorical language. For example, stories of giants shaping stone with ease may reflect a civilization with advanced quarrying techniques lost to later societies. Legends also hint at a continuity of knowledge, a transmission from pre-dynastic builders to early Egyptian dynasties. The abrupt appearance of monumental architecture in the Fourth Dynasty has puzzled historians for centuries. How did a civilization seemingly emerge fully formed with such precision, without any transitional stages? Could the answer lie in the inheritance of techniques, mathematics, and astronomical alignments from a vanished pre-dynastic society? Even Plato's Atlantis, dismissed as myth, describes engineering feats eerily similar to structures we find in Giza, carefully aligned, enduring, and sophisticated. Could these myths be an allegorical preservation of a historical reality that archaeology has yet to uncover? Beyond the Egyptian context, myths worldwide share curious parallels. In South America, legends speak of stone cities appearing atop mountains, built by a lost race with knowledge of celestial movements. In Asia, oral traditions recount ancient dynasties that vanished in floods or cataclysms, leaving behind knowledge encoded in temples and monuments. In the Middle East, Sumerian and Babylonian texts recount beings from the heavens, guiding humans in agriculture, governance, and construction. The pattern is undeniable. Myths consistently describe societies with capabilities far beyond what conventional timelines allow. Could these stories represent fragmented memories of a global civilization, dispersed and forgotten by time? Some researchers argue that the myths reflect a symbolic understanding of the human struggle to master the natural world. Others suggest that they are purely allegorical. Yet, when we correlate these stories with tangible evidence, the Sphinx's water-eroded base, ancient quarry techniques, the alignment of monuments with solstices and stars, a provocative possibility emerges. Perhaps myths are not merely fictions, but encoded histories, preserving the memory of pre-dynastic builders who mastered technology, astronomy, and monumental construction long before the pharaohs claimed their legacy. The scope of this civilization, if real, challenges our understanding of human history. It implies that humans achieved remarkable technical prowess thousands of years before the accepted timeline of complex societies. It also suggests a continuity of culture in which the knowledge of pre-dynastic builders was absorbed, adapted, and transmitted to emerging dynasties, then gradually forgotten. We see hints of this continuity in the pyramids themselves. While the Fourth Dynasty pharaohs are credited with these achievements, the precision of their structures, the scale of labor organization, and the architectural knowledge required suggest they inherited skills honed over centuries, if not millennia. Oral traditions preserve these memories in symbolic forms. Tales of divine intervention, giants, or demigods may encode real individuals who embodied knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and surveying. These myths act as mnemonic devices, ensuring that even as civilizations collapse, fragments of knowledge persist. Some stories speak of floods, cataclysms, or desertification wiping out earlier societies. Could the rise of the Sahara, changes in river courses, or catastrophic events have erased the traces of a pre-dynastic civilization, leaving only myths and monuments as evidence? Consider the global context. Geological records indicate dramatic climate shifts around 10,000 BCE, coinciding with the proposed age of the Sphinx, if one accepts erosion-based dating. Rising deserts, shifting rainfall patterns, and glacial melt would have forced civilizations to migrate, adapt, or vanish. Myths may encode these migrations, catastrophes, and societal collapses. Even the symbolism within Egyptian religion hints at memory of a pre-dynastic era. Gods associated with knowledge, creation, and architectural mastery, Thoth, Ptah, and others, could reflect reverence for the knowledge and achievements of earlier builders. Rituals, alignments, and sacred geometry embedded in temples may encode technical knowledge inherited from lost civilizations. The myths persist not only as stories but as embedded lessons, preserving techniques, observations of the stars, and cosmological understanding. They are cultural fossils, intangible yet potent, guiding successive generations in construction, governance, and knowledge systems. While some dismiss these myths as fanciful, the correlation with geological evidence, anomalies in architecture, and abrupt emergence of complex civilizations cannot be ignored. They point to a hidden history, one in which pre-dynastic builders achieved feats that modern scholars struggle to explain. Perhaps we are only now beginning to decipher the faint whispers of this forgotten civilization. Its traces lie not in mainstream historical records, but in stone, sediment, and myth, awaiting recognition. If the Sphinx is a remnant of this lost civilization, then myths are not merely stories, they are testimonies, encoded in allegory, waiting for the curious and courageous to uncover their truths. They challenge our assumptions about human progress, civilization, and the timeline of knowledge. They remind us that the past is deeper, stranger, and more complex than textbooks suggest. The Sphinx, weathered and silent, may be a sentinel, guarding not only the secrets of dynastic Egypt, but the memory of a civilization that existed long before the pharaohs, a society whose achievements shaped the foundations of human history, yet vanished, leaving myths as the only surviving testament to its existence. In these myths, we find the echoes of human ingenuity, ambition, and mystery, suggesting that the story of our civilization stretches back far beyond what we have dared to imagine, woven into stone, memory, and legend, waiting for the day when we are ready to listen and comprehend the full depth of our origins. The Great Sphinx stares across the Giza Plateau, its gaze enigmatic, yet many have noticed something profoundly unsettling about its face. Scholars, researchers, and enthusiasts have long debated the discrepancies in scale and proportion, the subtle asymmetries, and the features that seem, at times, incongruous with the rest of the monument. The lost head and recarved face theory emerges from these observations, suggesting that the Sphinx we see today may not reflect the original visage intended by its builders. According to this theory, the head we now observe is smaller than it would have been if it had been carved in proportion to the massive body, implying that it may have been recarved at some point in history, or possibly to represent a different ruler, deity, or symbolic figure. The proportions are striking. The Sphinx's body is roughly 73 meters long and 20 meters high, yet the head appears diminutive compared to the massive frame. Anatomists and sculptors have pointed out that, if the head were in its original form, it would have been significantly larger, perhaps even double the current size, to be harmonious with the body. This discrepancy has led some researchers to propose that the original head may have been destroyed, eroded, or intentionally removed, leaving only a fragment from which the current face was resculpted. Supporting this idea, historical accounts and artistic comparisons suggest that the Sphinx's face might have been recarved during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre. Khafre, credited with commissioning the Second Pyramid and associated with the Sphinx in classical tradition, may have sought to align the monument with his own image, replacing an older visage with one that suited his dynastic ambitions. But if this is true, what lay beneath the surface? Was the original head that of an earlier ruler, a symbolic deity, or even a figure from a civilization predating dynastic Egypt by thousands of years? Some theorists suggest that the Sphinx's original features could have represented a pre-dynastic ruler, or even a spiritual entity from a civilization lost to time. The Sphinx's location, carved directly from the bedrock of the plateau, would have made it exceedingly difficult to replace or recarve entirely. Yet the evidence of recarving is subtle, hidden in the erosional patterns, chisel marks, and geological inconsistencies observed around the neck and head. Geological studies show that the body exhibits signs of water erosion far more severe than the head, suggesting that the body may have been exposed to environmental conditions for millennia before the head was completed or recarved. If the original head were lost, damaged, or deliberately removed during a period of climatic upheaval, it would align with the hypothesis that the Sphinx predates the dynastic period, and that subsequent rulers merely adapted the monument to fit their own cultural narrative. Consider the nose, famously missing for centuries. The absence of the nose has often been attributed to cannon fire, deliberate vandalism, or erosion, but when viewed in the context of a recarved head, the missing nose becomes part of a larger narrative of alteration and transformation. Perhaps the head was reshaped multiple times, reflecting shifts in power, symbolism, or religious interpretation. Artistic comparisons also fuel this theory. When the Sphinx's face is juxtaposed with statues, reliefs, and other artistic representations from early dynastic Egypt, the features appear markedly different. The proportions, facial angles, and even the expression deviate from contemporary styles, hinting at an origin that may lie outside conventional timelines. Could the Sphinx's face originally reflected a ruler from a pre-dynastic civilization, whose visage was later recarved to align with Khafre's reign or Egyptian cultural identity? Some researchers point to satellite imagery and 3D scans revealing subtle depressions and indentations around the neck and head, suggestive of removal and reconstruction. These anomalies may be the result of chisel marks from ancient artisans attempting to reshape the original head, preserving the monument while altering its appearance. The theory extends even further, suggesting that the original head may have been eroded by centuries of water exposure long before any dynastic intervention. The Sphinx's body shows clear signs of weathering consistent with heavy rainfall, which geological studies place thousands of years before the reign of Khafre. If the head were exposed to similar conditions, it could have suffered severe damage, necessitating reconstruction. Historical records, though scarce, provide tantalizing hints. Classical writers such as Herodotus and Pliny describe the Sphinx as ancient even in their own time, attributing its creation to kings long before Khafre. These accounts, while often dismissed as exaggeration, align with the hypothesis that the monument underwent alterations over successive generations, possibly including the recarving of its head. Artistic and symbolic considerations further complicate the picture. The Sphinx's face must be viewed not merely as a portrait, but as a deliberate statement of power, divinity, and cosmic alignment. By recarving the head, ancient rulers could assert control over a monument whose origins were perhaps intentionally obscured. They could imprint their identity upon an older, revered structure, connecting themselves to the past while redefining its meaning. The recarving may also have involved religious symbolism. The Sphinx has long been associated with solar worship, acting as a guardian of sacred spaces and a symbol of divine authority. By reshaping the head, dynastic rulers could merge their identity with divine attributes, creating a hybrid symbol bridging human and godly representation. Modern forensic analysis offers additional insights. Facial reconstruction experts examining the Sphinx suggest that the current proportions, while technically feasible, are unlikely to reflect the original design. The discrepancy between body and head size suggests either erosion, deliberate downsizing, or recarving, supporting the idea that the Sphinx we see today is not the Sphinx that was first created. Some theorists even argue that the original head may have depicted a non-Egyptian figure, perhaps from a civilization that predated dynastic Egypt by millennia. This notion aligns with broader debates about lost knowledge, pre-dynastic builders, and the mysterious origins of monumental architecture. The implications are profound. If the Sphinx's head was recarved, it signifies a deliberate attempt to rewrite history, to overlay one era's identity onto the legacy of another. It challenges our assumptions about authorship, originality, and the chronology of civilization. Every strike of the chisel may have been both an act of preservation and an act of erasure, safeguarding the monument while altering its historical truth. Critics argue that evidence for a lost head is circumstantial, relying heavily on proportional analysis, erosion patterns, and mythic accounts. Yet, when combined with geological data, water erosion studies, and anomalies in stonework, a compelling narrative emerges. One in which the Sphinx's head is not original, but a recarved replacement, a palimpsest of human ambition, cultural adaptation, and historical mystery. The theory also invites us to reconsider other ancient monuments. If the Sphinx underwent recarving, could similar alterations have taken place elsewhere, masking the true origins of early civilizations? Could pyramids, temples, and statues, too, hold secrets hidden beneath later modifications? Each layer of stone representing not only construction, but reconstruction, adaptation, and reinterpretation. The lost head and recarved face theory pushes us to confront uncomfortable questions about history. How much of what we see is authentic, and how much has been reshaped by time, human intervention, or environmental forces? It suggests that the monuments of Egypt are living records, their surfaces inscribed not only with the intentions of their builders, but with the edits of subsequent generations, each leaving a trace of their priorities, fears, and ambitions. Finally, if the original head was indeed lost and recarved, what does that say about the civilization that created it? Did they possess knowledge, skill, and ambition far beyond what we attribute to early dynastic Egypt? Were they pre-dynastic builders, masters of stone and scale, whose achievements were repurposed, reshaped, and integrated into the cultural memory of later civilizations? The Great Sphinx remains an enigma, a monument whose very body and face record millennia of human history, natural erosion, and possible reconstruction. The lost head and recarved face theory invites us to look closer, to question conventional narratives, and to imagine a past far more complex, layered, and mysterious than textbooks allow. Perhaps the face we see today is not the true face of the Sphinx, but a mask, sculpted over the visage of a civilization long forgotten, a civilization whose memory survives only in stone, myth, and the subtle clues left in proportion, erosion, and design. And as we stand before the Sphinx, gazing into its enigmatic eyes, we are forced to ask, who did it once truly represent, and what stories were lost when the chisel reshaped history itself? For centuries, the Great Sphinx has captivated imaginations, not only for its monumental size and enigmatic gaze, but for the mysteries that may lie beneath its colossal form. Beneath the surface of this ancient guardian, rumors and theories have swirled around the possibility of hidden chambers and sealed tunnels, secret spaces that could hold knowledge, artifacts, or even entire histories long erased from human memory. The first whispers of subterranean spaces emerged in the writings of classical historians. Herodotus, often called the father of history, described a hidden hall beneath the Sphinx, though his account was vague and often dismissed as hearsay. Yet the notion persisted, compelling explorers, archaeologists, and adventurers to probe the sands and stones for evidence. Modern technology has reinvigorated these speculations. Ground-penetrating radar surveys, conducted intermittently over the past century, have revealed anomalies beneath the Sphinx, linear voids and irregular cavities that suggest more than simple geological formations. These irregularities are not uniform, not symmetrical, and not easily explained by natural fissures or sedimentary shifts. Some researchers believe that these anomalies mark the entrances to hidden chambers, deliberately carved and sealed by ancient builders. The placement of the Sphinx, aligned with celestial bodies and the Giza Plateau's pyramids, further hints that hidden spaces beneath it may have served ritualistic, symbolic, or functional purposes. Could these chambers have been repositories of sacred knowledge, secret archives, or burial spaces for pre-dynastic rulers? The tantalizing possibility raises profound questions about the origin of the Sphinx itself. If the monument predates the Egyptian dynasties, as some geological evidence suggests, these chambers could hold insights into a civilization whose existence we barely comprehend, let alone document. In 1926, French engineer Émile Barrès conducted excavations around the Sphinx's body and neck, uncovering narrow passageways and depressions within the bedrock. Although many of these were dismissed as minor erosion cavities, enthusiasts argued that they might have been entrances to larger concealed chambers, long since sealed to protect whatever lay inside. The possibility of hidden rooms becomes even more intriguing when considered alongside the Sphinx's proportions. Carved from a single limestone ridge, the monument is more than a static sculpture. It is a deliberate manipulation of the bedrock. Ancient builders could have incorporated hollow spaces, ventilation shafts, or secret tunnels during construction, spaces that would be nearly invisible from above but fully integrated into the monument's structure. Some Egyptologists point to peculiar acoustic properties around the Sphinx as indirect evidence. Visitors have noted resonances in certain depressions or cavities that suggest hollow spaces beneath the stone. While skeptics dismiss these as natural formations, the precision of ancient Egyptian construction and their advanced understanding of acoustics in temples and tombs complicate the argument. There are also references in esoteric literature to a Hall of Records, a legendary repository of knowledge supposedly hidden beneath the Sphinx. According to these accounts, the hall contains scrolls or tablets detailing humanity's forgotten origins, advanced technologies, or the history of civilizations lost to cataclysm. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this as myth, the possibility of undiscovered chambers keeps the debate alive, especially given the Sphinx's enigmatic age and apparent alterations. In recent decades, technological advances have added layers of complexity. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, and microgravimetric surveys have identified several anomalies beneath the Sphinx that could indicate voids, corridors, or chambers. In 1990, geophysicists conducted a survey revealing low-density areas under the paws and the body, suggesting hollow spaces beneath the limestone. Some enthusiasts argue that these could connect to underground networks, tunnels leading to nearby pyramids or other monuments, forming a subterranean complex whose purpose has been lost to time. The orientation of the Sphinx itself reinforces these speculations. Facing east toward the rising sun, the monument aligns with celestial cycles, possibly serving as a guardian not only of the plateau above, but of hidden secrets below. Ancient builders, attuned to both astronomical and geomantic principles, may have designed the monument with chambers that interact with sunlight, sound, or other natural phenomena, opening only under precise conditions known to the initiates of that time. Hidden tunnels also appear in anecdotal reports from early explorers and local guides. Several accounts describe narrow passages discovered near the base, often quickly filled in or blocked by collapses. While many of these are unverified, the consistency of reports across decades suggests a recurring feature of the Sphinx that has eluded systematic exploration. Some researchers link these tunnels to water channels or subterranean aquifers, raising the possibility that the Sphinx not only served symbolic or ceremonial purposes, but had practical functions, perhaps related to groundwater management, drainage, or ritual purification. Geological analysis supports this idea, revealing that the plateau's limestone is riddled with fissures and cavities, natural features that could have been adapted and expanded by ancient engineers into functional or ceremonial tunnels. The hidden chambers, if real, may also shed light on the Sphinx's original purpose and the civilization that created it. Were they tombs, repositories, or ceremonial halls? Did they house artifacts, inscriptions, or technologies now lost to time? Some theorists propose that these chambers could provide definitive proof of a pre-dynastic civilization, explaining the advanced engineering, the enigmatic features of the Sphinx, and the anomalies and erosion patterns that conventional timelines cannot fully reconcile. The possibility of hidden chambers resonates with broader patterns in ancient Egyptian architecture. Many pyramids, temples, and tombs contain false doors, hidden corridors, and secret chambers designed to protect sacred objects or knowledge. The Sphinx, as one of the earliest monumental constructions, may have pioneered these techniques, integrating secret spaces into its core structure in ways that have yet to be fully understood. Even the surrounding desert supports the possibility. The sands of Giza shift constantly, preserving some areas while burying others. Over thousands of years, entrances to subterranean tunnels could have been concealed by natural deposits, leaving only subtle depressions or anomalies detectable by modern technology. Archaeological patience and advanced scanning methods are required to reveal these features, yet political, environmental, and logistical challenges have limited extensive exploration. Furthermore, the Sphinx's water erosion patterns suggest periods of heavy rainfall long before dynastic Egypt, raising questions about the accessibility and preservation of hidden chambers. If the monument predates the known dynasties, these chambers may have been exposed, flooded, or otherwise modified during cataclysmic events, leaving only traces detectable through geology and subtle anomalies in the bedrock. Some theorists propose that a network of tunnels could extend far beyond the Sphinx, connecting to other sacred sites on the plateau. This subterranean labyrinth, if it exists, may reveal an ancient civilization's planning, linking ceremonial, astronomical, and architectural knowledge into a coherent, though largely hidden, system. The implications of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx are staggering. They could contain evidence that radically alters our understanding of human history, offering insights into engineering, spirituality, and societal organization far beyond what we currently attribute to pre-dynastic or early dynastic Egypt. Every anomaly, depression, or cavity beneath the Sphinx becomes a potential doorway into a forgotten past. In essence, the search for these hidden chambers is a search for lost knowledge, a quest to bridge the gap between the known and the unknown, between the carefully preserved monuments of recorded history and the mysteries that predate them by millennia. As modern technology continues to advance, the potential for discovery grows. Ground-penetrating radar, microgravity surveys, 3D imaging, and even robotic exploration may one day reveal chambers sealed for thousands of years. Whether they contain artifacts, inscriptions, or entire halls, the possibility that the Sphinx guards secrets beneath its massive frame ensures that it remains not only a symbol of ancient Egypt, but a beacon for human curiosity and the quest for understanding the forgotten chapters of our civilization. And as the sun rises over the Giza Plateau, casting long shadows across the desert sands, the Sphinx's silent gaze reminds us that some of history's greatest mysteries may lie not above ground, in what we can see, but beneath our feet, in hidden chambers and sealed tunnels, waiting to whisper the truths of a time long forgotten. The Great Sphinx of Giza, carved from a single ridge of limestone and standing watch over the Giza Plateau, has long been regarded as one of humanity's greatest enigmas. Its immense size, precise alignment, and enigmatic expression have inspired countless theories, but among the most tantalizing are those that link this monument to the lost civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria. For generations, myths and legends have described advanced societies existing long before recorded history, cultures that possessed knowledge, technologies, and spiritual wisdom far beyond what conventional archaeology attributes to early human civilizations. Atlantis, first described by Plato in the dialogues of Timaeus and Critias, is said to have been a vast island nation, technologically advanced, morally sophisticated, and ultimately destroyed by a cataclysmic flood. Lemuria, although less universally known, is postulated as a lost continent in the Indian or Pacific Ocean, home to ancient enlightened beings whose remnants allegedly influenced early human societies. The connection between these lost lands and the Sphinx is not immediately obvious, yet proponents of alternative history point to anomalies in construction, erosion patterns, and astronomical alignments as clues that the Sphinx may originate from a time predating known Egyptian dynasties by 10,000 years or more, roughly coinciding with the proposed existence of these lost civilizations. Geological surveys of the Sphinx reveal signs of water erosion, suggesting that heavy rainfall sculpted its body at a time when Egypt's climate was radically different. Traditional estimates place the Sphinx at around 4,500 years old, carved during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre. However, the degree and style of erosion imply exposure to millennia of rainfall, conditions that existed closer to 10,000 or 12,000 years ago, a period when theories posit that advanced civilizations like Atlantis could have flourished. The hypothesis is compelling. If the Sphinx truly predates the Egyptian dynasties, it may represent the work of an earlier civilization, one that aligns with the timelines associated with these fabled lands. Supporters of this theory argue that the monument's precision and astronomical orientation are too advanced for the tools and knowledge available to early Egyptians. The Sphinx faces due east, directly toward the rising sun during the spring equinox, aligning with the constellation Leo, as it would have appeared around 10,500 BCE. This alignment coincides with the purported era of Atlantis' flourishing and corresponds to the period during which Lemuria's civilizations are said to have existed. Some researchers suggest that the Sphinx may have served as a guardian, a marker, or even a repository of knowledge left by these ancient peoples, an enduring message encoded in stone for future generations to decode. The idea that remnants of these civilizations influenced early Egyptian culture is supported by anomalies in architectural knowledge. Egyptian pyramids, temples, and monuments display an understanding of mathematics, geometry, and astronomy that seems improbable for a society traditionally considered nascent in the arts of engineering. If an advanced civilization such as Atlantis or Lemuria preceded Egypt, their survivors or cultural echoes could have transmitted this knowledge to the pharaohs' architects, embedding their wisdom into the very fabric of Giza. Tales of hidden chambers within the Sphinx reinforce this speculation. Esoteric texts and fringe theories describe a hall of records beneath the Sphinx, a repository containing scrolls or tablets from a vanished civilization, chronicling knowledge far older than the Egyptian dynasties. Could these records originate from Atlantis or Lemuria? Could the Sphinx itself be a silent sentinel, protecting a truth about humanity's forgotten origins, waiting for the day we might finally decipher it? Legends of Atlantis describe a catastrophic flood that submerged the island beneath the ocean, erasing its cities and people. Similarly, proponents of the Lemuria theory propose that tectonic activity, rising seas, or cosmic events obliterated these ancient lands. Yet, fragments of their knowledge, wisdom, and perhaps even surviving peoples could have migrated to North Africa, leaving behind monumental evidence such as the Sphinx. Some scholars point to symbolic and structural parallels. The Sphinx, with its lion's body and human face, is not merely an Egyptian creation, but part of a wider motif found in the art and mythology of supposedly lost civilizations. Lions, dragons, serpents, and hybrid creatures appear in myths across the globe, from the Pacific islands of Lemuria to the Mediterranean tales of Atlantis. These common motifs may represent a shared cultural memory, a heritage transmitted across continents and millennia, crystallized in the stone of the Giza Plateau. Proponents of this theory also draw attention to the placement of the Sphinx relative to the pyramids. The alignment mirrors celestial configurations, suggesting not only advanced astronomical knowledge, but also an understanding of cosmic cycles that may have been preserved from a pre-dynastic era. Such precision is argued to exceed the capabilities of conventional early Egyptian society, hinting at a lineage of knowledge passed down from older, more advanced civilizations. Even more fascinating are the accounts of explorers, mystics, and researchers who have claimed to detect energy fields or anomalies around the Sphinx, areas where electromagnetic readings, geomagnetic alignments, or subtle vibrations suggest something hidden beneath or within the monument. Some speculate that these energetic signatures may have been intentionally placed by ancient civilizations, remnants of technologies or spiritual practices designed to survive the ages, encoded in the very stones of the Sphinx to preserve secrets that only those attuned to them could access. Critics dismiss these claims as speculative, yet the recurring pattern of anomalies across different measurement methods invites deeper consideration. Could it be that the Sphinx is a physical bridge between our known history and these lost civilizations? A monument designed to endure floods, wars, and the erosion of millennia, yet carrying a message only decipherable by those who understand the context of Atlantis and Lemuria? The erosion patterns themselves support this narrative. Some researchers argue that water-based erosion is inconsistent with the known climate of Egypt during the conventional dating of the Sphinx. Instead, it aligns with a time when rainfall was heavier, when civilizations of Atlantis or Lemuria may have thrived and shared knowledge that eventually migrated to the Nile Valley. Legends also describe advanced spiritual practices of these civilizations, claiming they possess technologies and wisdom to manipulate consciousness, harness energy, and predict astronomical phenomena. The Sphinx, as a sentinel, may have been designed not merely as a sculpture, but as a symbolic or functional focal point, channeling or amplifying energies, standing as a testament to a civilization whose understanding of the cosmos surpassed anything seen in dynastic Egypt. These theories often intertwine with esoteric and mystical interpretations. The Sphinx's enigmatic smile, its watchful gaze, and its silent presence over the centuries inspire speculation that it represents more than human or pharaonic authority. Could it be the face of a priest, ruler, or emissary from Atlantis or Lemuria, immortalized in stone as a guide, guardian, or teacher? Could its massive body symbolize the enduring strength and wisdom of civilizations lost to cataclysm, their legacy etched into the bedrock as a challenge to future generations to rediscover what was forgotten? Some researchers have even suggested a genetic or cultural transmission, that the builders of Egypt's first dynasties may have been influenced directly by survivors of these lost lands, integrating advanced construction techniques, symbolic systems, and astronomical knowledge into the very foundations of civilization. In this context, the Sphinx becomes not merely a monument, but a nexus of human history, a relic standing at the intersection of myth, archaeology, and cosmic alignment. As centuries pass, the sands of Giza may yet reveal more. Every technological advancement, from ground-penetrating radar to satellite imagery, brings new potential to uncover secrets long buried. Whether these links to Atlantis and Lemuria are tangible or symbolic, they compel us to reconsider the narrative of human history, inviting us to question what we know, what we assume, and what may have been lost in the deep waters of time. Perhaps the Sphinx, silent and immovable, holds the key, a witness to events and civilizations that predate recorded history. And as the sun rises, casting light upon its weathered form, we are reminded that the stories of Atlantis and Lemuria are not just legends. They are possibilities encoded in stone, waiting for the moment when humanity is ready to understand its true ancient heritage. For millennia, the Great Sphinx has gazed eastward across the Giza Plateau, its enigmatic expression capturing the attention of explorers, historians, and mystics alike. Its very orientation, facing the sunrise over the horizon, has sparked profound questions about the knowledge and intentions of its creators. But beyond its physical grandeur lies a deeper mystery: its astronomical alignments, which suggest that the Sphinx may not merely be a monument of human craftsmanship, but a cosmic marker designed to reflect celestial patterns, to encode time, and perhaps to preserve knowledge from a civilization whose sophistication exceeds conventional timelines. When we observe the Sphinx in the context of the stars, a remarkable alignment emerges. The monument faces due east, precisely oriented toward the rising sun at the equinox. At first glance, this could appear coincidental, a natural choice for a solar deity or a symbolic representation of rebirth. Yet, when researchers calculate backward, accounting for precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, the Sphinx's gaze aligns almost perfectly with the constellation Leo as it appeared in the sky around 10,500 BCE. This is not a trivial matter. The alignment is precise, suggesting that the builders understood celestial mechanics, precession, and the long cycles of the heavens. The lion-bodied Sphinx, staring steadfastly toward the rising sun, may in fact be a monumental representation of Leo itself, carved to mirror the heavens and to immortalize a cosmic epic long before recorded Egyptian history. This alignment has profound implications. If the Sphinx was built to coincide with Leo's appearance, conventional dating becomes problematic. The dynastic period traditionally associated with Khafre's reign occurred over 4,500 years ago, but Leo's alignment with the Sphinx points to a time more than 12,000 years in the past. Could this indicate that the Sphinx predates Egypt's dynasties by millennia, hinting at the presence of a pre-dynastic civilization with advanced astronomical knowledge? Further celestial correlations reinforce this theory. The positioning of the pyramids at Giza mirrors stellar constellations, particularly Orion's belt, in a pattern that some researchers claim is a terrestrial reflection of the heavens. The Sphinx, situated at the eastern edge of the plateau, complements this layout, guarding the plateau as if it were a terrestrial observatory aligned with the cosmos. The precision of these alignments suggests intentionality and knowledge beyond mere observation. Ancient Egyptians revered the sun and stars, linking celestial cycles to divine authority, agricultural planning, and spiritual practice. The Sphinx, through its orientation and proportions, may have served as a celestial marker, recording the passage of time, the precession of the equinoxes, and the movements of the heavens. Its placement indicates an understanding of astronomical cycles that require centuries of observation, careful calculation, and monumental planning. The question arises: how could a civilization thought to be in its infancy at this time accomplish such feats? Conventional Egyptology often attributes these alignments to dynastic architects inspired by symbolic, religious, or ritualistic needs. However, the precision with which the Sphinx correlates with Leo and the rising sun at the equinox challenges this narrative. It suggests that either the monument's original builders had access to advanced astronomical knowledge, or that it was erected by an earlier civilization, now lost to history, with the capacity to observe and record the movements of the heavens with extraordinary accuracy. Some researchers propose that the Sphinx may have functioned as an astronomical calendar, a device to track the passage of time, solar cycles, and precessional shifts. The orientation toward the rising sun during the equinox could have marked a critical point in the solar year, a signal for ritual, agricultural planning, or ceremonial events. The Sphinx may also have been a symbolic bridge, linking the terrestrial and the celestial, representing the alignment of human activity with cosmic order. Other studies suggest that the monument's features, such as the proportions of its body and the angles of its head, may encode specific astronomical data. From the slope of the shoulders to the length of the paws, certain measurements may correspond to distances between stars or durations of celestial cycles. These subtle hints, embedded in stone, could have served as a guide for initiates, priests, or astronomers seeking to understand and navigate the heavens. Beyond the precession of the equinoxes, the Sphinx may also align with solstices, lunar cycles, or other stellar phenomena. Some alternative researchers suggest correlations with Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, a celestial body deeply significant in Egyptian religion. Sirius Heliacal rising marked the beginning of the Nile's annual flood, a life-giving event that shaped agriculture, society, and religious practice. If the Sphinx was aligned with Sirius or other key stars, it could have functioned as a monumental observation post, encoding vital information about the environment and cosmology for generations. Yet, the astronomical precision is not the only factor fueling speculation. The erosion patterns on the Sphinx, consistent with water-based weathering, suggest that it was exposed to heavy rainfall thousands of years before the dynastic period. If true, this means that the Sphinx's astronomical alignments were established at a time when Egypt's climate was radically different, reinforcing the idea of a pre-dynastic construction. Linking celestial observation with monumental architecture requires not only technical skill, but long-term planning, knowledge of mathematics, and cultural continuity. The Sphinx's alignment implies a civilization capable of such foresight, one that integrated architecture, astronomy, and symbolism into a cohesive program of cosmic significance. This raises the possibility that the Sphinx is a relic of a lost era, perhaps connected to the myths of Atlantis or Lemuria, civilizations said to have flourished before the known human record. The cosmic precision embedded in the Sphinx's orientation may be a survival of knowledge, a preserved record of celestial understanding, intended to endure through millennia, waiting for future generations to decode it. Some esoteric interpretations go even further, suggesting that the Sphinx's gaze serves as a cosmic mirror, a reflection of divine order, linking human consciousness to the celestial sphere. The monument may encode a philosophical or spiritual framework, mapping humanity's relationship with time, the stars, and the unfolding of cosmic cycles. The very act of aligning a colossal monument with the heavens requires an awareness of precessional cycles spanning thousands of years. This implies that the builders were capable of long-term observation, had a sophisticated understanding of mathematics and geometry, and possessed the vision to translate abstract astronomical knowledge into monumental stone. Such capabilities, according to many researchers, are difficult to reconcile with conventional accounts of early Egyptian civilization, suggesting either a lost pre-dynastic society or an advanced knowledge inherited from an even older culture. Modern technology has provided tools to examine these alignments with greater precision. Satellite imagery, astronomical software, and 3D modeling allow researchers to simulate the night sky of 10,500 BCE, confirming the Sphinx's alignment with Leo and other celestial bodies. These findings, while controversial, have reinvigorated debates about the monument's age, origin, and purpose. The implications are profound. If the Sphinx was deliberately aligned with the stars at a time when the known Egyptian civilization did not yet exist, it may represent a continuity of human knowledge spanning thousands of years, linking us with a civilization now lost beneath the sands of time. In essence, the Sphinx's astronomical alignments are not merely coincidental. They are encoded messages, cosmic markers, and silent testimonies of human ingenuity. They challenge conventional chronologies, hint at advanced pre-dynastic knowledge, and connect the monument to broader patterns of mythology, lost civilizations, and cosmic observation. The Sphinx stands as a guardian of celestial wisdom, a bridge between human history and the vastness of the heavens, inviting us to reconsider what we know, to question timelines, and to explore the possibility that humanity's understanding of the stars may be older, deeper, and more sophisticated than we have ever imagined. And as the first rays of the sun strike the face of the Sphinx, casting shadows across its weathered stone, one cannot help but wonder, was this gaze always meant to watch the heavens, to mark time itself, and to preserve knowledge from a world we have yet to fully comprehend? The mysteries of the Great Sphinx have not only drawn the attention of archaeologists and historians, but have also captivated those exploring the boundaries of human consciousness. Beyond stone, sand, and ancient inscriptions lies an enigmatic domain where perception extends beyond the ordinary, where psychic abilities and remote viewing are used to probe secrets hidden beneath the surface and perhaps even across the veil of time itself. Remote viewing, a practice developed and popularized in the 20th century, allows individuals to describe locations, objects, or events at a distance, often far beyond the reach of the senses. Applied to the Sphinx, it becomes a fascinating tool, potentially capable of uncovering hidden chambers, long-lost inscriptions, or even the history of its creation, knowledge that conventional archaeology may never access. During the Cold War, U.S. intelligence programs invested heavily in psychic research, training individuals to remotely observe distant targets, including underground facilities and classified installations. Many reports from these programs suggested that trained psychics could perceive details inaccessible through ordinary means, describing layouts, materials, and occurrences that were later verified. Researchers fascinated by the Sphinx wondered, if such remote viewing could be applied to contemporary targets, could it also access information stored in stone for thousands of years? Could the monument itself, saturated with history, act as a repository for psychic imprints, waiting to be deciphered by a mind attuned to its subtle energies? Experiments with psychics focusing on the Sphinx have been conducted intermittently since the 1970s. Some viewers report seeing vast underground halls, corridors extending far beneath the Giza Plateau, chambers filled with artifacts, and inscriptions that predate any known Egyptian dynasty. Descriptions often converge on common themes: elongated passageways, water-worn stones, cryptic symbols, and a pervasive sense of guardianship, as though the Sphinx itself was a sentinel, preserving knowledge too profound or dangerous to reveal to the uninitiated. These visions sometimes describe events, not just physical spaces. Some psychics claim to perceive rituals performed by an unknown civilization, technological practices that seem far more advanced than early Egyptian methods, and figures who carefully measured the stars and earth, encoding cosmic cycles into stone. The recurring presence of water, floods, and rainfall in these psychic observations aligns strikingly with geological theories, suggesting that the Sphinx's erosion was caused by centuries of rainfall, pointing to a much earlier construction date than traditionally accepted. While skeptics dismiss these claims as the product of imagination or coincidence, the sheer consistency across independent remote viewing sessions is intriguing. Multiple psychics, working at different times and in isolation, report corridors, chambers, and symbolic patterns that seem to corroborate one another, hinting at a structure or narrative beyond the known surface archaeology. One compelling aspect of these psychic investigations is their temporal reach. Remote viewers occasionally describe events and environments not just physically hidden, but temporally distant. They perceive the creation of the Sphinx, the hands of builders at work, and the techniques employed, sometimes suggesting tools or methods unknown in conventional history. Some accounts even describe the presence of beings, humans or otherwise, who oversaw or designed the monument with a level of knowledge, precision, and foresight that challenges the narrative of early human civilization. This has led some researchers to hypothesize that psychic imprints, or what the ancients might have called Akashic records, could be embedded in the Sphinx itself. According to this theory, consciousness interacts with matter, and monumental structures like the Sphinx could store information, impressions, and experiences accumulated over millennia, waiting for an attuned mind to access them. The psychic investigations also extend to the surrounding pyramids and the Giza Plateau. Remote viewers sometimes describe hidden chambers within the Sphinx complex that connect to subterranean networks beneath the plateau, a labyrinth of tunnels and rooms that may hold records, tools, or artifacts from civilizations predating dynastic Egypt. Some visions even suggest that the Sphinx acts as a guardian of this knowledge, its massive body symbolically and energetically shielding what lies beneath, accessible only to those with the proper attunement or purpose. Not all psychic impressions are physical. Some describe abstract concepts, cosmic cycles, spiritual wisdom, and knowledge of celestial alignments encoded in the stone. These visions often emphasize the Sphinx's function as an interface between humanity and the cosmos, suggesting that the monument was designed not only as a symbol of power, but as a conduit for higher understanding, transmitting energy, knowledge, or insight to those capable of perceiving it. Skeptical observers argue that psychic accounts are subjective and unverifiable, yet proponents counter that the convergence of independent reports, combined with geological and astronomical evidence, presents a pattern worth considering. For instance, when psychics describe chambers filled with water-worn stone or subterranean corridors, Geologists have noted anomalies in the plateau that could indicate undiscovered voids or weakened strata consistent with the hidden structures. Moreover, some psychics describe symbolic patterns or inscriptions that, while not yet physically verified, align with motifs found elsewhere in ancient art, suggesting continuity of thought or knowledge across time and space. The exploration of psychic and remote viewing phenomena is not limited to anecdotal reports. Universities and private research organizations have conducted controlled experiments attempting to replicate findings under stringent conditions. While results vary, certain sessions have produced descriptions matching known historical facts or undiscovered sites, lending tentative support to the concept that consciousness may access information beyond the constraints of conventional perception. When applied to the Sphinx, the implications are staggering. If psychic methods can indeed reveal information hidden beneath the surface or across time, then the Sphinx may contain knowledge far older and more sophisticated than Egypt's dynasties. It could act as a bridge between modern humanity and an ancient civilization, a guide pointing toward truths that conventional archaeology alone may never uncover. Some reports even suggest a temporal dimension, that the Sphinx carries memories or echoes of events that occurred thousands of years ago, impressions left by its builders, observers, and the very landscape itself. If so, then the act of remote viewing is not merely divination. It is a form of archaeological inquiry, a tool for accessing hidden history embedded in the fabric of the monument. The psychic perspective also raises profound philosophical questions. What if monuments are more than physical constructions? What if they are repositories of consciousness, memory, and intention? What if the Sphinx is not simply a statue, but a living record, a stone archive of civilizations long vanished, their wisdom encoded in a way that transcends time and material constraints? These investigations, while controversial, push the boundaries of how we perceive history, memory, and human potential. They suggest that our understanding of the Sphinx, and by extension, our own past, may be limited not by the absence of evidence, but by the limitations of perception. As psychics and remote viewers continue to explore the monument, they may reveal insights into ancient technologies, spiritual practices, and cultural knowledge otherwise lost to time. Perhaps the Sphinx has always been a teacher, silently offering glimpses of knowledge to those capable of perceiving it, bridging the gap between what is known and what remains hidden beneath the sands, waiting for consciousness to awaken to its secrets. And as the sun rises over the plateau, casting long shadows across the Sphinx's immense form, we are left to ponder. How much of our history is written not just in stone, but in consciousness itself, waiting to be seen, felt, and understood? The Great Sphinx has always been more than a monumental sculpture. Its massive form, a lion's body with a human head, is imbued with symbolism, but some researchers propose a far more provocative theory, that the Sphinx was not merely a symbol of royal authority or religious devotion, but a guardian, an enduring sentinel, protecting knowledge and technology from an era long before recorded history. This is not speculative imagination. It is a theory built on converging evidence, from geology to archaeology, from astronomical alignment to psychic investigations, all pointing toward a deliberate, intentional function far beyond the public-facing symbolism of ancient monuments. The idea of the Sphinx as a guardian arises first from its unique design and placement. The lion, a predator at the top of the food chain, suggests vigilance, dominance, and protection. Its eastward gaze, aligned with the sunrise and potentially with the constellation Leo as it appeared over 12,000 years ago, implies observation, awareness, and cosmic synchrony. Could this monumental gaze be more than artistic expression? Could it symbolize guardianship, the role of watching over something sacred, hidden, or dangerous? Researchers have long been fascinated by the suggestion that the Sphinx conceals hidden chambers, tunnels, and repositories beneath its massive body. Geological anomalies, voids detected beneath the plateau, and water erosion patterns hint at spaces yet to be fully explored. If these chambers exist, what lies within them? Could they house archives, tools, or technologies from a civilization predating dynastic Egypt, preserved and protected for millennia? Theories of ancient technology range from advanced mechanical devices to energy-based innovations, tools that could manipulate water, harness celestial energy, or encode astronomical data. Some researchers speculate that these technologies were so advanced that their creators understood physics and engineering in ways only rediscovered millennia later. The Sphinx, in this context, functions as a protective interface, a sentinel designed not only to guard physical spaces, but to ward off those unprepared to comprehend or safely interact with these ancient mechanisms. Symbolism within Egyptian iconography may provide subtle clues. The lion, associated with strength, courage, and divine protection, paired with a human head representing intellect, suggests a guardian that balances brute force with knowledge. In this sense, the Sphinx is not merely a sentinel of stone. It is an embodiment of purpose, vigilance, and instruction, communicating silently to those attuned to its message. Some theorists propose that the Sphinx's original creators encoded knowledge into its very proportions and alignments. Measurements, angles, and placements could correspond to energy flow, celestial cycles, or operational principles for ancient devices now lost to history. The alignment with Leo, the rising sun, and potentially other stars may have been critical not only for ceremonial purposes, but for operational timing, activating or regulating these hidden technologies in accordance with astronomical events. The psychic investigations and remote viewing accounts further reinforce the idea of a guardian role. Multiple independent sessions describe chambers beneath the Sphinx containing artifacts, inscriptions, and energy configurations that could correspond to mechanisms or knowledge systems. The recurring motif of water, chambers, and ritualized observation suggests a deliberate protective framework. The Sphinx is not merely a passive statue, but a node in a complex network of preservation, observation, and control. Some alternative theories suggest that the Sphinx was constructed by a civilization with knowledge far beyond that of early dynastic Egypt, one capable of designing technologies that interact with natural forces, planetary energy grids, or even the fabric of consciousness itself. From this perspective, the monument is not only a guardian, but a stabilizing force, maintaining the integrity of ancient systems, protecting them from misuse, and ensuring their survival across millennia. The idea of guardianship extends beyond physical protection to conceptual and metaphysical safeguarding. Preparation or guidance may be able to interpret its alignments, symbolic cues, and embedded messages, gradually uncovering principles of astronomy, geometry, and energy manipulation. In this way, the Sphinx functions as a selective interface, preserving knowledge while maintaining security across time. Some researchers argue that the guardianship extends to knowledge lost even to modern civilization. References to Atlantean or Lemurian technologies, advanced architectural techniques, and star-mapped wisdom hint at a continuity of understanding, deliberately encoded in stone, awaiting rediscovery when humanity is prepared. The Sphinx may have been part of a network of monuments, pyramids, and sacred sites, each contributing to the protection and maintenance of technological knowledge, collectively forming a sophisticated system of observation, regulation, and preservation. Archaeological anomalies support this theory. Certain stones, erosion patterns, and structural inconsistencies suggest modifications and interventions over time, implying the presence of layered functions. The Sphinx may have been adapted or restored to continue its guardianship across changing climates, dynasties, and cultural epochs. Furthermore, some alternative theories speculate on energy-based technologies, possibly harnessing solar, acoustic, or planetary forces. The Sphinx's alignment with the sun, specific stars, and equinoxes could correspond to energy regulation principles, activating or stabilizing mechanisms designed to manipulate natural or cosmic forces. This guardianship would require an enduring presence, a sentinel capable of observing, monitoring, and controlling access to these hidden technologies, a role perfectly embodied by the Sphinx. The narrative of guardianship also intersects with mythology. Egyptian legends describe the Sphinx as a protector of sacred knowledge, a sentinel overseeing the mysteries of life, death, and cosmic order. These myths, when combined with geological, astronomical, and psychic evidence, suggest that the stories are not mere allegory, but perhaps reflections of real protective functions embedded in the monument. The Sphinx may have been envisioned as a mediator between human civilization and forces or knowledge too powerful for ordinary interaction. Its presence communicates authority, caution, and guidance, signaling that the secrets beneath its paws and behind its gaze are not to be approached lightly. In this context, the Sphinx is simultaneously a monument, a guardian, and a repository, a physical and symbolic interface safeguarding the remnants of a forgotten civilization, preserving its wisdom against the ravages of time, climate, and human interference. The guardianship theory challenges conventional interpretations, asking us to reconsider the Sphinx not merely as a statue or symbol, but as an active participant in the preservation of ancient intelligence and technology. It prompts a profound question. If the Sphinx was built to guard knowledge, who were the intended inheritors, and what responsibilities did they bear in understanding, preserving, or protecting it? Perhaps the greatest mystery lies not in what we see, but in what we have yet to discover. The Sphinx's silent vigil spans millennia, bridging human history, lost civilizations, and the potential for knowledge that transcends our current understanding. As we stand before its colossal form, we are compelled to ask, is this monumental guardian merely a relic of the past, or does it continue to serve its purpose, waiting for the moment when humanity is ready to uncover, comprehend, and responsibly wield the technologies and wisdom it protects? Throughout history, the Great Sphinx has stood as both a monument and a mystery. Yet despite compelling geological, astronomical, and even psychic evidence suggesting a far older origin, official archaeology has largely resisted these interpretations. Why does mainstream scholarship remain so rigid, so resistant to evidence that challenges the established timelines? To understand this resistance, we must first acknowledge how the foundations of archaeology are constructed. Academic institutions rely heavily on established chronologies, methodological conventions, and peer-reviewed validation. Deviating from these accepted frameworks carries professional risk, potentially undermining credibility, funding, and institutional standing. The notion that the Sphinx could predate dynastic Egypt by 10,000 years does not merely introduce a new hypothesis, it threatens the very scaffolding of accepted history. The geological evidence is striking. Rain erosion patterns on the body of the Sphinx indicate exposure to centuries of heavy rainfall, something consistent with a climate many thousands of years before Egypt's dynastic period. Stratigraphic analysis and sediment studies suggest layers that predate Khafre's reign, layers that indicate weathering inconsistent with arid conditions. Yet, despite these observations, many official accounts insist the Sphinx is only around 4,500 years old. Why? One reason lies in the inertia of orthodoxy. Once a narrative, such as the dating of Egyptian monuments, becomes entrenched, every discovery is interpreted through its lens. To accept radically earlier construction dates requires revisiting hundreds of assumptions, from the timeline of human civilization to the development of architectural skill and astronomical knowledge. It challenges the notion of linear progress, suggesting that an advanced civilization existed, disappeared, and left behind monumental evidence that does not fit the accepted sequence. Another factor is professional caution. Archaeologists are trained to rely on material evidence that can be reproduced, verified, and peer-reviewed. Geological anomalies and erosion patterns are open to interpretation, allowing skeptics to dismiss alternative readings as speculative. When remote viewing reports, psychic impressions, or even cross-disciplinary correlations suggest hidden chambers or pre-dynastic technology, official channels often classify these ideas as pseudoscience. Funding and institutional politics also play a role. Archaeological research is expensive and highly competitive. Investigations that challenge the established timeline may not receive grants or institutional support. Universities and museums have reputations to maintain, and controversial theories risk public ridicule, journal rejections, and reputational damage. There is also a psychological dimension. Accepting evidence that radically rewrites history forces a re-evaluation of human civilization's origins. It demands acknowledgement that knowledge and technology may have existed far earlier than currently believed, and that entire chapters of human development have been lost to time. This is a paradigm shift, and humans, scholars included, are naturally resistant to paradigm shifts that threaten deeply held assumptions. Some researchers suggest that archaeology's conservatism is partly self-preserving. Official narratives are constructed to maintain authority and coherence within the discipline. Allowing the Sphinx to be interpreted as pre-dynastic introduces an unsolvable dilemma. How do we integrate such knowledge into the historical framework without undermining centuries of scholarship? The result is systematic resistance. Anomalous evidence is downplayed, ignored, or explained away. Public fascination with alternative theories, Atlantis, Lemuria, psychic investigations, advanced pre-dynastic technology is often labeled sensationalist, ensuring that the mainstream avoids these discussions while continuing to present a controlled narrative. Yet, the weight of evidence continues to grow. Geological surveys, erosion analysis, astronomical alignments, and even patterns observed through remote viewing point toward a Sphinx far older than previously acknowledged. Independent researchers report convergence across disciplines, a consistency that challenges mere coincidence. The Sphinx's face may have been recarved, its original proportions altered, yet the underlying structure, the very body of the monument, shows unmistakable signs of water erosion and environmental exposure inconsistent with a late dynastic origin. Moreover, archaeological evidence from surrounding sites hints at advanced planning, precise measurements, and construction techniques that imply a level of knowledge difficult to attribute solely to the Fourth Dynasty. Even if we disregard psychic accounts, the physical, measurable anomalies persist. Why then does official archaeology resist? The answer lies at the intersection of professional conservatism, institutional inertia, and cognitive bias. Scholars are trained to interpret evidence within a framework that has been rigorously tested over decades. When anomalies appear, they are often reinterpreted to fit the existing model rather than to upend it. Revolutionary ideas are rarely embraced immediately. They face skepticism, critique, and delay. There is also the social aspect of archaeology. Discoveries are scrutinized by a global network of peers, and challenging the consensus invites criticism, debate, and reputational risk. To publicly advocate a radically earlier Sphinx risks marginalization, even exile from academic discourse. This resistance is further reinforced by education systems that teach a linear progression of civilization. The idea of a pre-dynastic advanced society capable of monumental architecture challenges not only archaeology, but anthropology, climatology, and our understanding of human development. It implies a lost chapter of history that official narratives have yet to accommodate. Critics often dismiss alternative theories as fringe speculation, but dismissals rarely address the underlying anomalies. The erosion patterns, the geological evidence, the possible hidden chambers, and the astronomical alignments all remain, silently challenging orthodox timelines. This selective skepticism maintains the authority of the official narrative, ensuring that the possibility of an older Sphinx remains outside mainstream consideration. Finally, there is an existential dimension. Accepting a Sphinx older than dynastic Egypt forces us to question human origin stories, the continuity of knowledge, and the rise and fall of civilizations. It introduces the unsettling notion that humanity may have forgotten profound achievements, that history is incomplete, and that the monuments we revere are survivors of lost epochs whose builders remain unknown. This tension between evidence and established authority is the heart of why official archaeology resists the Sphinx's pre-dynastic implications. The discipline's commitment to rigor, peer validation, and chronological coherence ensures that radical interpretations face uphill battles, even when anomalies persist. Yet, resistance does not equate to impossibility. As more evidence accumulates, as cross-disciplinary research continues, the case for an older Sphinx grows stronger. Perhaps the true story of the Great Sphinx, its creators, and its purpose will eventually emerge, transcending the constraints of institutional skepticism and revealing a civilization that predates our current understanding by thousands of years. And so, we are left to ponder how much of history is constrained by human bias, and how much truth remains buried beneath the sands, silently waiting for those willing to question, investigate, and confront the inconvenient anomalies that official narratives often dismiss. The Sphinx, patient and silent, seems to ask the same question, its gaze fixed eternally toward the horizon, daring us to see beyond accepted timelines, to look into the past that mainstream archaeology refuses to acknowledge, and to confront the possibility that our understanding of civilization is far more limited than we have ever imagined. For centuries, scholars have studied, measured, and theorized, yet the monument guards its deepest secrets, not with violence, but with the authority of time itself. And the moment we recognize the anomalies, acknowledge the evidence, and question the narrative, the Sphinx challenges us. Will we see the truth, or continue to bow to the comfort of established timelines? The Great Sphinx has stared across the desert for millennia, its gaze fixed on the rising sun. Yet what if its silence is not emptiness, but deliberate? What if, beyond its stone exterior, the Sphinx was designed to hold a message, not for its contemporaries, not for the pharaohs who built temples around it, but for civilizations yet to come? To entertain this idea, we must first consider the scale and endurance of the monument itself. The Sphinx is carved from the limestone bedrock of the Giza Plateau, a single massive form that has survived millennia of wind, sand, and human interference. Its very durability suggests intentionality, a monument not merely for the present, but for preservation across epochs. Could the builders have intended it as a time capsule, a message written in stone for those who would inherit the earth long after their civilization had vanished? The concept of messages for future generations is not unique to ancient Egypt. Across cultures, humans have sought to preserve knowledge for posterity, from cave paintings to cuneiform tablets, from burial chambers to astronomical observatories. Civilizations have encoded wisdom, warnings, and cultural memory into durable forms. But the Sphinx is unparalleled in its scale, sophistication, and symbolism. Its size, positioning, and alignment with celestial bodies suggests that any message it carries is encoded not just in hieroglyphs, but in geometry, orientation, and proportionality. Some researchers suggest that the Sphinx's alignment with the rising sun during equinoxes, as well as its potential connection to the constellation Leo as it appeared over 12,000 years ago, is no coincidence. Such alignments could encode calendrical information, astronomical cycles, or even instructions on energy harnessing and environmental observation. In this sense, the monument itself could function as a repository of knowledge, a guide for future civilizations to understand the universe, the passage of time, and humanity's place within it. Beyond astronomy, some theorists posit that the Sphinx might contain hidden chambers or tunnels, voids beneath its paws, or within the surrounding plateau, designed to house artifacts, inscriptions, or technological devices. If these exist, they could serve as a form of communication, a deliberate message awaiting discovery by those capable of decoding it. Psychic investigations and remote viewing reports add another layer to this theory. Multiple independent sessions describe chambers beneath the Sphinx containing artifacts and symbols that appear to communicate principles of cosmology, geometry, and energy. While such accounts remain controversial, the convergence of these reports with archaeological anomalies suggests intentionality in the monument's design. The concept of a message for the future implies foresight, planning, and understanding of the passage of time. Its creators would have needed to anticipate that future civilizations might evolve differently, develop new languages, and require encoded knowledge in forms that endure beyond the decay of conventional media. Stone, monumental alignment, and structural symbolism are ideal for this purpose, as they are resilient, precise, and interpretable across ages. Some alternative theories suggest that the Sphinx could encode warnings as well as knowledge. The colossal figure may serve to signal the existence of powerful technologies, hidden knowledge, or energy systems, cautioning those who approach unprepared. Its symbolism, lion strength paired with human intellect, could imply that wisdom is necessary to harness the potential within or around the monument, and that reckless curiosity could have consequences. Consider, too, the scale of lost human history. Geological, archaeological, and climatic evidence suggests that advanced civilizations may have risen and fallen long before recorded dynasties. The Sphinx, predating dynastic Egypt according to some theories, could be a surviving testament from such a civilization, a message meant to preserve the understanding, technology, and philosophies of a culture erased by time. Its message, encoded in stone and proportion, would bridge millennia, challenging future generations to decode, interpret, and apply it responsibly. Symbolism within the Sphinx reinforces this possibility. The lion represents strength, vigilance, and guardianship. The human head symbolizes intelligence, perception, and consciousness. This combination suggests a dual purpose: protection and education. Perhaps the Sphinx was intended to teach, to guide, and to warn simultaneously, offering knowledge to those capable of comprehending its complexity while safeguarding it from misuse. The surrounding landscape may hold further clues. The pyramids, temples, and causeways could be considered extensions of the monument, forming a network designed to encode astronomical, geological, and perhaps technological data across a broad spatial scale. Patterns, proportions, and alignments could function as a multi-dimensional message, intelligible only to those able to observe the monument holistically and interpret its connections with the sky, earth, and the flow of time. Some researchers point to numerical ratios in the Sphinx's dimensions, proportional relationships between its height, length, and the surrounding plateau, suggesting the possibility of encoding units of measurement, mathematical constants, or natural harmonics. If deliberate, this is knowledge intended to survive the decay of language and culture, accessible to anyone who deciphers the mathematical and physical principles underlying the monument. The concept of a future-oriented message also resonates with mythology and esoteric traditions. Egyptian myths describe guardians of wisdom, protectors of secrets, and monuments imbued with divine purpose. Could the Sphinx embody these traditions in material form, a tangible message for those who come after? Its gaze toward the horizon may symbolize anticipation of discovery, an invitation for future observers to unlock its secrets, to understand its purpose, and to integrate its wisdom responsibly. The implications of such a message are profound. It suggests that knowledge is not confined to time-bound civilizations, but is intended to endure, to educate, and to warn. It challenges the modern understanding of history, engineering, and cosmology, implying that humanity's current achievements are but a fraction of what has been known before. Accepting the Sphinx as a message for the future requires humility, curiosity, and recognition of human continuity across millennia. It forces us to question our assumptions about technological progress, the longevity of civilizations, and the transmission of knowledge. Perhaps the greatest lesson embedded in the Sphinx is not contained in hidden chambers, celestial alignments, or symbolic proportions alone. Perhaps it lies in its persistence, its silent testimony across thousands of years, teaching us patience, observation, and the responsibility that comes with discovery. If the Sphinx does indeed hold a message for future civilizations, it is both a beacon and a challenge. A beacon because it survived millennia to speak across time, and a challenge because its full meaning is only accessible to those willing to engage deeply, to question assumptions, and to perceive beyond the immediate. It asks us to consider what knowledge we leave behind, how we preserve wisdom for those who come after, and how civilizations can communicate across epochs when language, culture, and technology inevitably change. Ultimately, standing before the Great Sphinx, we confront not only the mystery of its age, purpose, and construction, but also a profound question for ourselves. Will humanity recognize and honor the messages left by those who walked before us? Or will these insights remain silent, waiting in stone for a future civilization capable of understanding what has been carefully, deliberately preserved? Perhaps the greatest secret of the Sphinx is not merely its origin, but its enduring role as a teacher, protector, and messenger, a monument that bridges the millennia, whispering across time, silently inviting those with wisdom, patience, and courage to uncover the truths it has safeguarded through the ages. As we gaze into its enigmatic face, we are reminded that history is not static, that knowledge can transcend millennia, and that the greatest messages are those written not for the present, but for the future, waiting patiently for the day we are ready to receive them. The Sphinx's silent vigil continues, a timeless message carved in stone, staring not only at the horizon, but at the future itself, inviting us to look, understand, and preserve the wisdom of the past for generations yet to come. The Great Sphinx has long been perceived as a silent sentinel of Giza, its leonine body and human visage commanding the desert. Yet some researchers propose that it is far more than a monument. It may function as a portal, a gateway to knowledge deliberately encoded for those capable of interpreting it. To understand this idea, We must first consider what it means for a structure to serve as a portal. It is not necessarily a physical doorway, though some theories suggest hidden chambers, shafts, or subterranean tunnels beneath the Sphinx could conceal repositories of wisdom, technology, or sacred knowledge. More profoundly, a portal can be symbolic, encoded in proportions, alignments, and relationships to the stars, conveying information across time rather than space. The Sphinx's proportions and orientation immediately suggest intentionality. Positioned on the Giza Plateau with precise astronomical alignment, it gazes toward the rising sun at the spring equinox, a moment historically associated with renewal, rebirth, and cosmic synchronization. Its body aligns with the Nile's course, and its form resonates with the constellation Leo as it appeared around 10,500 BCE, a date that coincides with the end of the last ice age. This alignment is not merely aesthetic. It may encode knowledge of celestial cycles, environmental shifts, and human adaptation. Ancient civilizations often encoded wisdom in monuments, using geometry, astronomy, and proportion to preserve understanding across generations. If the Sphinx was built, or at least designed, in an era preceding dynastic Egypt, its function as a portal could extend beyond a single civilization, intended to bridge the millennia and communicate with those who could decipher its symbols, patterns, and hidden cues. Consider the possibility of hidden chambers. Over the past century, multiple investigations using ground-penetrating radar, muon tomography, and other non-invasive methods have hinted at voids and anomalies beneath the Sphinx and surrounding plateau. Some researchers speculate that these spaces could house artifacts, inscriptions, or devices conveying knowledge, waiting for a future civilization to uncover them. The notion of a portal extends to consciousness as well. Psychic investigations, remote viewing, and intuitive accounts describe experiences of accessing information through the Sphinx, perceiving events, cultures, and wisdom long vanished. While controversial, the convergence of multiple independent reports suggests intentional encoding, an interface designed not only for physical exploration, but for cognitive interaction, a portal accessible through both observation and perception. The Sphinx as a portal implies purpose. Its creators may have intended it as a guardian of knowledge, requiring both intelligence and moral capacity to unlock its secrets. The lion symbolizes strength, courage, and vigilance. The human head represents intellect and discernment. Together, the form embodies a duality. Access to profound wisdom comes only through the combination of courage, understanding, and patience. Astronomical knowledge may be embedded within the Sphinx, forming a bridge between human understanding and cosmic phenomena. Alignments with the stars, the sun, and perhaps even planetary cycles could serve as instructions for calculating time, predicting environmental shifts, or understanding celestial mechanics. These insights, encoded geometrically rather than textually, would endure far beyond the decay of language and culture, allowing a future civilization to interpret cosmic knowledge without prior familiarity with the original culture. Moreover, the surrounding monuments, the pyramids, temples, and causeways, may be extensions of this portal. Together they form a network that conveys knowledge holistically, using spatial relationships, proportional measurements, and symbolic resonance. A visitor capable of reading the Sphinx in this context could access a system of knowledge designed to be reconstructed only by those who observe, measure, and interpret it with care and intelligence. Beyond astronomy, geometry, and architecture, some researchers propose that the Sphinx could encode environmental and technological knowledge. Ancient water management, energy harnessing, and urban planning may be inscribed in proportions, alignments, or symbolic representation, awaiting rediscovery by those capable of interpreting advanced principles from monumental design. The portal concept also implies a moral dimension. Wisdom encoded in the Sphinx is not merely technical, it is ethical. The balance between human intellect and strength, the vigilance of a guardian figure, and the careful integration of the monument with its environment all suggest that the creators intended knowledge to be used responsibly. Only those who approach with respect, discernment, and patience could hope to unlock the portal fully. Historical myths reinforce this possibility. Egyptian mythology often portrays deities, guardians, and sacred monuments as repositories of knowledge, accessible to initiates through learning, trial, and insight. The Sphinx itself, combining lion and human features, may symbolize a culmination of these principles, a sentient gateway bridging the physical and metaphysical, the practical and philosophical, the immediate and eternal. Consider the challenge posed by the Sphinx's durability, carved from limestone bedrock, subject to thousands of years of erosion. It has persisted while countless other structures and artifacts have vanished. Its endurance suggests intentional preservation of knowledge for the distant future, a portal designed to outlast civilizations, empires, and dynasties, ensuring that the wisdom it encodes could be accessed by those yet to come. If this is true, the portal is not merely a repository, but an invitation. The Sphinx challenges humanity to observe carefully, to measure precisely, and to think critically. It bridges time, demanding comprehension, patience, and insight. The knowledge it protects may encompass cosmic understanding, technological principles, environmental stewardship, or even philosophical frameworks for navigating civilization. Could the portal extend to consciousness itself? Some researchers suggest that structures like the Sphinx are designed to interact with human perception, encoding information in ways that stimulate insight, intuition, and revelation. The act of observing, contemplating, and engaging with the monument may itself be a form of accessing knowledge, a cognitive portal triggered by attention and understanding. In this sense, the Sphinx is not a passive object, but an active interface, a monument whose purpose is realized through interaction. It communicates not only through geometry and alignment, but through the very act of observation, engagement, and reflection. Ultimately, conceiving the Sphinx as a portal transforms our understanding of the monument. It is no longer merely a relic of dynastic power. It is a gateway to understanding, a bridge between ancient wisdom and future civilization. Its purpose is deliberate, its design profound, and its secrets patient. Those who seek to comprehend it must do so with humility, respect, and intellectual rigor. The Great Sphinx may have been built to survive not for the pharaohs, nor even for humanity, as it exists today, but for civilizations capable of thought, curiosity, and discernment. Its gaze, fixed eternally on the horizon, may symbolize an invitation to observe carefully, to learn, and to carry forward the knowledge preserved within stone, proportion, and alignment. In this way, the Sphinx serves as a portal not only through space, but through time, a bridge across millennia, an enduring challenge to human intelligence, and a silent teacher waiting for those prepared to unlock the wisdom embedded in its monumental presence. Its silence is deliberate. Its lessons are timeless. And as we stand before it, the true question emerges. Will we see it as a mere statue, or will we recognize it as the portal it was designed to be, a conduit of knowledge spanning the ages, patiently awaiting the day when humanity is ready to receive its message?